Welcome to Amrita by the Book. My name is Amrita. This is my Booktube, and I am delighted to be here today because I am again celebrating my 1-year anniversary on Booktube. Now, in my last video, I was trying to introduce you to some of the people who've made this place so welcoming to me and have given me a real sense of community, which is something that I always crave. And some of you from there sent in a couple of questions. I also asked a few of my friends on Instagram. I'm also Amrita by the Book on Instagram. And this is actually a really great mix of friends old and new asking me things that, you know, some of them are fun, some of them are clearly pushing my buttons, and I see you. But there's a lot to get through, so I'm just gonna speed through this and let's see how long this video is gonna be. The first question is from Vidya, who asks me if I read YA books and what is my favorite if I do. And yes, I do read YA. I just don't read them as much as some people. And I've said this before, like my problem with YA is that sometimes it's written in a way that makes it really clear that this is basically an adult story that's been aged down just to fit a particular market. And I think that's disingenuous and I don't like it. I especially have problems with it when it's too sexy. It's not because I'm puritanical or because I don't think young people have sex. Obviously they do, and obviously, you know, like if you've ever met a teen, you know they're thinking quite a bit about sex. So that's not my issue with it. It's just that I'm an older woman, and when I read about children, you know, like thinking about sex or hooking up or all that kind of stuff, and unless it's incredibly closed door, I feel like I'm perving on them, and it feels legitimately uncomfortable for me. And that's entirely my own issue. Like, I don't mean to project that onto other people, but it's just not for me. That said, there are some that I feel are actually written for the market, and you can always tell because they do such a good job of writing like age-appropriate literature is how I would describe it. So one of the books that I read recently on the recommendation of Nat from Nerdy Nat Reads actually is Cemetery Boys by Aidan Thomas, and I love that book. Like, it is wonderful, and I'll have a more in-depth review of it in a later video. The next question is from Margaret, who wants to know what is my favorite flatbread that is not naan. And I appreciate you for not just asking me that question, but also remembering, like, you know, my bitchy asides on lives. I'm going to say, you know, because she said naan, I'm going to stick to something in that Mughlai sort of field, and I'm gonna say it's shirmal, which is not a flatbread that I've seen outside of India. Maybe they do serve it in some restaurants, I don't know if you can find it, but it is delicious. It's sort of this layered, buttery, well, it's actually ghee, but you know, buttery, flaky bread, and you get it in Delhi, and it is delicious with kebabs, and I love it. Next, Lavanya, who's like a very old friend of mine, and she's actually one of my my blogging friends, you know, from back in the day, and she wants to know what is my favorite book. And Lavs, what are you doing, girl? Like, you know that that's not a thing. But I am going to direct everybody to my episode of Your Favorite Book podcast. I think it's called YBF Podcast, and it's available on all streaming platforms. You can check it out. And I did an episode where I talked about one of my problematic faves, which is Shadow of the Moon by MMK. And you know, we've been having so many discussions online lately about problematic books and problematic authors and how to read them, etc. And I think maybe you might find it interesting to just listen to this particular episode. Next, Michelle wants to know what is the first book that I remember reading. And I don't know about book, but I do, like, my earliest memory of reading something is a Flash Gordon comic. I don't remember which one it was, but I have such a strong memory of the art Actually, that's what I remember most about most of my early reads, because they were picture books, fairy tales, comics, etc. And I really remember the art in some of them and how strongly I was affected by the images that I saw in these books. Next, Divya wants to know what is a book that I've had on my TBR forever but still haven't gotten around to it. And actually, Divya, like if I tell you that a book has been on my TBR forever and it's been more than a couple of years, then I'm probably just, lying about it. Like not in a malicious way, but actually, like at the rate that I read and the number of books that I read per year, if I've somehow not been able to find space for this book, then obviously it means that I don't really want to read it, right? Like if it's been on my TBR for more than a couple of years, there's just something about it that's not appealing to me, even if I've got it on my TBR. That said, there are books that I have wanted to read but haven't been able to read because they're out of print or they're really difficult to come by. There are only like collector's editions available. So for example, there's like a couple of books in the Shally School series by Eleanor and Brent Dyer. And that was like a school series that I read as a child and I really loved it. And there are a couple of books that were out of print and have been out of print for a really long time. I think once in a while there's like a Friends of Shally School Society, super nerdy, but they come out with editions once in a while, but I always just miss the window because I don't have any kind of alert system set up, which I should change actually. Next, Nat wants to know what's my favorite comfort food, and that is a dosha. Like I love doshas. Like if you've never had a good dosha, and there are like substandard doshas out there, and I feel sad for those of you who've had to eat it, but a good simple dosha that is crisp, and lathered in like ghee. I mean, yum, with a simple coconut chutney. Yum, yum, yum. Scott and Nell tell me that apparently Q&As bring out the worst in them, to which I say bring it on. So the first question that they had was, have I ever stuck a coin up my nose? And no, I don't think I have. But I'll tell you what I did. I once for some reason started filling up syringes with lemonade and shooting it down my throat, except I didn't take out the needle. And it turns out if you like plunge the syringe, like a little too enthusiastically, the needle will come out, and I actually had a needle stuck in my throat. And I knew immediately that I'd fucked up and I couldn't tell my parents because my mother would scream. And so I just like reached out and like pulled out the needle and nothing happened to me, but yeah, that was not a good time, and I do not recommend that other people try it, children or not. The next question is actually really good. They wanted to know if I could force one author to attend a masterclass by another author, who would it be? And this is so obvious. Like I would send George R.R. Martin to attend like a masterclass by Brandon Sanderson. Like he wouldn't even have to go to a masterclass, just enroll in one of his writing classes, in Utah or whatever. Because just figure out how to plot and then to like write it. Just finish somehow. And the last question is, how about a banknote? And how about it? I like those. Tell you what, I'll exchange it for a drink if we ever meet up somewhere. Next are a bunch of questions by Panda, who is the love of my life and my secret twin that I never knew existed out there. And she wants to know, first of all, what are 5 new authors that I have discovered recently? And I actually only have 4. And recently, I'm defining recently as in the last, say, 2 years. One is Alexis Hall. I love his books. And Arcady Martin, I mean, I'm just absolutely evangelical. Actually, let's make that 5 because I would also add P. Jelly Clark. Like, I would read any of his books as well. And then Panda herself recommended G.A. Aiken, and I am reading the Blacksmith Queen series right now, and I love it, and I can't wait to read like her other works. And the last one is Aidan Thomas, who wrote The Cemetery Boys, just because I feel like they have a very authentic voice and they do like a really great job of writing people who seem like they're actual teenagers. The next question is, how has your reading evolved over the panini? Are you reading one genre over others? And yeah, I would say that my reading has evolved in that it's become much more diverse, and I've actually begun to read like the kind of books that I maybe wouldn't have just left to myself, but because I have Booktube and because I have friends on here whose taste I've begun to trust, and they are reading books that, you know, either I haven't come across or have never heard of or wouldn't automatically pick up. I find myself reading those things and venturing into new genres, for example. So that's been great. But yeah, otherwise I've really just stuck to romance and science fiction fantasy over the course of the past year and a half, and that's really worked out well for me. The next question that she has is, how hyped have I found Bookstagram Rex? And Panda, you're just trying to get me in trouble. I can feel it all the way here. But joke's on you, because what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do a video, you know, a Booktube made me read this, Bookstagram made me read this kind of a thing. And so you can have an extended answer to that question later on. The next question is from Pithu. You can actually follow her account over on Instagram. It's called Kapow with Pithu, and I can't even describe what that is. You'll just have to check it out for yourself. But Pithu and I, like, we've known each other for 20 years. She's one of my oldest friends, and she is insane. And her question is, Bago mein bahar hai. Bago mein bahar hai. And the only possible answer to that, Pithu, is next is Lana, who actually asked me one of the tougher questions, which is build the perfect book with my favorite tropes. So, a romance, and it has like a convenient marriage, enemies to lovers, and some kind of revenge. I can't narrow down what kind of revenge though. That's a great question, Lana. We should do a live about it. Next, Nikki wants to know what is an advanced reader copy that I was most excited about, and it has to be A Desolation Called Peace by R.K.D. Martin. Like, I knew as soon as I finished the first book, I knew that I wanted to read the sequel. I could not wait. The publication date actually got pushed from 2020 to 2021, and so the moment I saw it on NetGalley, I immediately put in my request for it, and I was so excited when I got it. Robin wants to know what is my favorite genre, and it has to be fantasy. Like, I was going to say romance. Actually, you know, it's a toss-up between fantasy and romance, but I think fantasy has a slight edge to it. Now, By Book and Bone wants to know what would be my favorite birthday day, like how would I plan that day out? And this actually made me really sad because we are heading towards July, and that is when I was going to have my most perfect birthday day. I was going to get all my friends, because my friends live, you know, they're scattered all around the world, and we had figured out, you know, that this particular summer was a summer where everybody could somehow make their way to North America, and we were all going to go and rent a farmhouse on Prince Edward Island because we're all fans of Anne of Green Gables, and we were going to get like a farmhouse, and then we were all going to be there for a week. We were going to barbecue, we were going to drink wine, we were going to catch up. I was going to introduce some of my friends who, you know, they've heard me talk about each other to each other, but they've never actually met. So just friends that I've made over the course of like 20 years, and I was going to get everyone together, and it was going to be amazing. And no. But there's always another year, you know. Berna wants to know what are my favorite Turkish dramas so that we can chat about them. And yeah, so I really, so my gateway drug was The Magnificent Century, obviously, as it was for many people. And I started watching it because Cardi B told me to watch it, and Cardi B gives great advice. So I watched it and I loved it. Like, it was insane. And then I ended up watching, I think it's called Wounded Heart. I can't remember the Turkish name of it, but in English I think it's called A Wounded Heart. It was really great and I really enjoyed that series. And also Herjai, it is one of the most beautiful series that I've ever seen in my life. If you like grand sagas, if you like, like things with an expansive feel to them, like an epic feel to them, then that's the romantic series that you should watch. Next up is Rosie, and she wants to know if I could have a pet, any kind of pet, what would it be? And I mean, it has to be a dragon, right? Like, everybody wants a dragon. Duh. But more realistically, I would really like a dog, but I can't get a dog until I settle down somewhere and then know that this is my home. And I also cut down on my traveling because I don't think that's fair to a dog, Also, I like bigger dogs, so I would need like a yard. Like, there are like so many things that have to fall in place. Like, I wouldn't adopt a dog just like that any more than I would have a child. So yeah. Also, because this is Rosie and she is the most thoughtful and kind person ever, her next question is, how do you have such thought-provoking things to say about everything? And Rosie, I feel like that's just you. I don't know if other people find me as engaging and thought-provoking as you do, but I think, honestly speaking, it's probably because everything that I say is just things that I feel, and I've never done anything for the algorithm. The next question is from Lana, and she actually has one of my favorite questions on here because she wants to know what was my favorite place to read when I was younger. And this is what a weirdo I was. My dad had one of those collapsible luggage trolley thingies, those tiny little ones. So I would carry that plus a couple of pillows and blankets up to the terrace of my grandmother's home. And there was a corridor, like a covered corridor, next to the terrace, and I would set up this luggage trolley and I would heap it with pillows and blankets and create a tiny sort of cave for myself, except it was like, like you could push it around and you wouldn't have to just have it in like one place. So a blanket fort, but mobile. And my favorite thing, because we would usually be visiting my grandma during the monsoons, so my favorite thing would be to just sort of snuggle down in my blanket fort with a book and maybe a snack and a drink, and then just watch and hear the rain come down. And it was like being in front of a water feature that was also air conditioned, and having all my favorite things around me. And it was the best way to spend a monsoon afternoon. Shelf Yans wants to know if I've ever read a book in a surprise genre that I've liked. And I want to say like all the time when I was younger. Because I would literally just walk up and down, the bookshelves or the library, and I would just look, and if there was a title that caught my attention, then I would read the blurb, and if the blurb caught my attention, then I would just get it. And we didn't have Goodreads and stuff back then, so I literally had no idea what the reviews were for these books. And that's how I ended up reading most of the backlist that I've read, and it's been wonderful. That's how I ended up reading so much murder mystery, for example, or how I started reading science fiction even, or there was a period when I went through like horse literature. I don't know how to explain it, but basically like stories about like girls who had horses and really loved their horses. Not in like a kinky way, like let's not be disgusting, but like, they were horse girls. Next, I have a few from Sophia, who has a brand new Bookstagram channel, by the way. Check it out. And Sophia wants to know, where do I find the intro music and animated clips for my intros? And again, like I've said, I am a huge believer in everything free. So the music is actually, it comes bundled with your iPhone, your iMovies actually. So you just like download it and you put it on and it's fine, and it's copyrighted and everything. And for the animated clips in the front, I go to Canva. I have the free account. I haven't even paid for that. and I just, use it creatively. She also wants to know if I could meet with an author currently living or not, who would it be? And that has to be Dorothy Parker, right? Like everybody wants to meet Dorothy Parker, surely. She also wants to know if I could arrange a meeting between two characters from two very different novels. Who would it be for maximum chaotic fun? And I immediately knew who it was. It would have to be Matt Cawthon from The Wheel of Time meets the Blacksmith Queen from the series by G.A. Aiken. I am dying laughing just imagining Matt's reaction the first time Keely brings out her like demon pups. And you know Keely is gonna like beat Matt at some point for being annoying. Somebody write that fanfic, I wanna read it. Next, Brunalini wants to know where do I see my channel in another year, and actually I don't know. When I started this channel, I was very clear that I wasn't going to do this as a professional thing. Like I wasn't going to game the system, I wasn't going to like do anything especially professional with it, and I've stuck to that. And I think my longevity thus far is because of that. It's because I've been kind to myself and I'm doing this as a fun project. So I don't really know where my channel will be at the end of another year, but I hope it will be with like more friends. Next, Mari wants to know if all my book club members were drowning and I only had one extra life jacket, who would I give it to? And I feel like this question is missing this little phrase at the end that says, and why would it be Mari? And Mari, you have like, you have full rights over any extra life jackets that I have, but I'll tell you what I would do. I would give up my own life jacket and I would drown in solidarity like a true sister. Mari also wants to know dinosaurs, best pets or the bestest pets? And obviously, they are the bestest pets. Except for dragons. Dragons are the bestest pets. Next, the book buds ask that I have said before that I've had a couple of videos go viral and I hated the response. How do I stop it and guard against it in the future? And sadly, there's like no way to really do it. If there are people out there who want to be mean and horrible to you, they will do it no matter what you do, Like you can't really manipulate a certain kind of response. You can manipulate people into clicking your video, you can manipulate them into having a certain kind of response to some things, but there's never going to be a way for you to completely control somebody else's reaction to you and the work that you put out. So if you were to ask like what is the best way to guard against it, the best way is to get off YouTube or any kind of social media. That sounds like a very flippant answer, but I genuinely mean it from the bottom of my heart. There are people out there who really aren't meant to be on social media because their mental health really can't stand it. And that doesn't mean that they're weak or that that there's something wrong with them. It's just the way that they are, and they have the full right to defend themselves against that kind of response out in the world. So there are no good answers to that question, I'm afraid. Because the other strategy would be for me to consciously avoid certain topics, because I know that would get a certain kind of viewer to my channel. But my muzzling myself in fear of what this unknown person might say to me, that is not something that I am comfortable with for myself. I'm not saying that this is the only way forward or like you're a bad person, you're a coward if you do it this way. I'm not saying anything like that. I'm just saying that doesn't work for me. And I've been around long enough and I've created things online before that I know that doesn't work for me, and eventually it would just end up with me getting frustrated. So I'm just going to do whatever it is that I do, and if people react terribly, then that's on them. That's not my business. Alison Rose has another one of my favorite questions. She wants to know, what did you want to be when you were a kid growing up, and do you still want to do that, or do you think back and think, what was I thinking? And Alison, when I was 3 years old, I decided that I was going to invent a machine that would print currency notes. So yes, when I was a child, I dreamt of growing up to become a forger. Do I still want to be a forger? No. Do I think to myself, what was I thinking? No, because I know what I was thinking. I thought I had discovered a very simple solution to the problem of people not having enough money. It was a very simple, direct, clean solution that is unfortunately illegal. No shame. And last up is Jeremy with the age-old question, what is up with the doors behind you? Which is apparently a question that many people on Booktube have had, but only Jeremy has had the courage to ask. And honestly, what happened is, like, I have my my bookshelf over here, but it is a mess, and I have zero energy, or basically I just can't be bothered to tidy it up. And also, this is the best lighting that's coming at me, so I knew I wanted to do it in this way. So what you're seeing behind me is okay, that right there is the door that leads out of my bedroom. So this is my bedroom, that's where I'm shooting. That right here is my cupboard. So that's the other door that you're seeing. The door behind me, that's the door to the bathroom. And I would get up and open it, but you don't want to see my bathroom. And then this right here is the cupboard that was the only thing that I wanted from my grandmother's home when we sold it. It is the old cupboard that my grandma had in her bedroom, and she used to keep candy in there as well as money. And so when we visited her for the summer, as a treat, she would like take out candy from there and she would give it to us, or sometimes she would like open like the drawer inside and give us like little bits of money to spend on whatever we wanted. And it was all very exciting. So when we sold the old house and we were trying to decide what we wanted to do with this furniture, because there's like a lot of really great furniture in that house. So we were like, oh, what should we keep, what should we give away? And I told my mom, I just want one thing from that house, and that's the cupboard that I want. So I got it and I have it, and it makes me very happy. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 doors. But those are all the doors, by the way, in this room. It's just a wall of windows opposite me, and then there's like a blank wall on this side, and then my bookshelf on that side. So that's the mystery of the multiple doors that you see in my room. Thank you all for sending me your questions on Instagram and here on YouTube. Thank you all for watching my videos over the past year and attending my lives and being open to collaborating and just being good friends and viewers. And I really appreciate it. It's been so much fun over the past year, and I hope we're going to have lots more fun over the coming year. My name is Amrita, and this is my Booktube. For more videos, please hit the subscribe button.